Good day, friends. I'm Dave, and this is Planet XSF. Batteries not included. Today, we're looking at the wonderfully demented and creative world of Japanese monsters. Most people with any interest in fantastic cinema are familiar with the Japanese word kaiju, referring to the giant city-smashing creatures like Godzilla or Gamera. Less well known, and what we're talking about today, is the term kaijin. They're much creepier and mostly human-sized cousins who often lurk in laboratories and potentially your personal space. If kaiju are skyscraper-sized problems, kaijin are nightmare-sized problems in a trench coat. Kaijin are strange, transformed human beings, usually intelligent and often cast as mutants, criminals, or villains, or sometimes just your usual mutant criminal villains. I should note that although kaijin are mostly human-sized, a transformed human of any proportion is often referred to by this title. As we shall see, Toho had a series of 3 real standout films that are specifically referred to as the Transformed Human Trilogy. So with that in mind, let's walk through a few standout kaijin films, moving year by year through invisible criminals, radioactive blobs, mushroom people, and other deeply upsetting examples of why no one in these movies should ever trust a scientist. The Invisible Man Appears, 1949. Criminals seek to exploit a scientist's invisibility formula to steal a priceless diamond necklace, unleashing chaos in the process. Special effects by the legendary Eiji Tsuburaya. During the American occupation of Japan, Eiji Tsuburaya was blacklisted from the studios for what was regarded as his work on propaganda films during the war. He got around this by starting an independent company to supply special techniques or special effects films to the studios. His company was contracted by Daiei to do the special techniques for this film. He would later close his company when he was allowed to be hired by Toho. The Invisible Man vs. the Human Fly, 1957. A police inspector using invisibility technology confronts a miniature assassin whose bizarre murders are driven by revenge and mad science. This film shares part of its Japanese title with the Japanese release of the much better-known 1958 American science fiction film The Fly, which was released in Japan as Horror of the Flyman, Hei Etoko no Kyofu. While both films feature flymen, The Invisible Man vs. the Human Fly actually predates the latter film by almost an entire year. The H-Man, 1958. In Tokyo, the police are investigating a growing number of disappearances. Their primary interest is in a drug dealer, but their interests quickly shift to the strange occurrence where they find people's clothing as if people just vanished while wearing them. The story starts to make sense when a fisherman tells them that he and others from his village also found an abandoned merchant ship, and on board they found clothing with no people. They found a gelatinous green glowing substance that attacked them and consumed some of them. The police are skeptical at first, but when they witness the liquid creature, now called the H-Man, kill 3 people, including a policeman at the nightclub where Chikako worked, they now believe him. Now the police must not only find the criminal gang, but figure out a way to destroy the H-Men before they kill all of Tokyo. In the original Japanese version, the detectives make a big deal that Chikako owns a television. At the time this was made in 1958, a television set was still beyond the budget of the typical Japanese family. This is considered the first entry in Toho Studios' Transforming Human series. The Manster, 1959. An American reporter who is stationed in Japan is sent to interview an eccentric Japanese scientist, as are they all, who is working on a bizarre experiment in his volcano laboratory. When the doctor realizes that the hapless correspondent is the perfect subject for his next experiment, he drugs the unfortunate man and injects him with a serum that gradually transforms him into a murderous and hideous 2-headed monster, which eventually splits apart into 2 separate beings, the reporter himself and an ape-like monster. Secret of the Telegian, 1960. A killer uses an experimental teleportation process to carry out seemingly impossible revenge murders while investigators race to uncover how the crimes are being committed. It is discovered that the killer is a former soldier, gaining revenge on his former compatriots who attempted to murder him in order to steal a cache of stolen gold, stabbing them with a bayonet. The killer has been transmitting himself to the locations instantaneously with the experimental teleporter, which at the very end of the film malfunctions, scattering the killer's electrons into oblivion. This was only the second film and the first science fiction or special effects production to be directed by Jun Fukuda, who subsequently directed 5 Godzilla films for Toho. It is also the second entry in the studio's Transforming Human series. The Human Vapor, 1960. After a scientific experiment goes wrong, a man gains the ability to turn into vapor and uses his power to rob banks in support of the dancer he loves. The Human Vapor was released in Japan on December 11, 1960, to critical acclaim, a rare feat for a tokusatsu or live-action special effects-heavy film at the time. The film also achieved both critical and commercial success in the United States and Europe, leading to plans for a sequel that ultimately never materialized. Over time, its reputation has grown, earning cult classic status and praise as a standout early science fiction thriller, noted for innovative special effects and themes of power and oppression. In 2009, it ranked 65th in Kinema Junpo's critics poll of the 200 greatest Japanese films of all time. And this is the third and final entry in the Transforming Human series. Matango, 1963. A group of castaways stranded on a remote island begin eating strange mushrooms that gradually transform them into grotesque humanoid creatures. Directed by Ishiro Honda, Matango was different from his other films of the period as it explored darker themes and featured a more desolate look. Upon the film's release in Japan, it was nearly banned due to scenes that depicted characters resembling victims of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Retrospective reviews generally commented on how the film varied from Honda's other work with its darker tone. Although they were established stars at Toho, actors Yoshio Tsuchiya and Kumi Mizuno had no qualms about their involvement in genre films. Tsuchiya was recognized for being one of Akira Kurosawa's favorite actors and cited how much he enjoyed working in science fiction films just as much as in Kurosawa's films. Mizuno cited this as her favorite of all tokusatsu films that she was involved in. One of the particularly clever and unsettling parts of this film is that rather than transforming into a hideous monster after consuming the mushrooms, Honda has her become more beautiful and seductive, a true femme fatale. The film, sometimes referred to as the longer title Matango Fungus of Terror, was released directly to video in the United Kingdom as Fungus of Terror, and an abridged version aired on a television in the United States with the rather overly descriptive title Attack of the Mushroom People. Goke, Body Snatcher from Hell, 1968. Survivors of a plane crash on a remote island are hunted by an alien parasite that possesses people and turns them into blood-drinking monsters. This film is reputed to be one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite films. A scene in the film Kill Bill Volume 1 shows an airplane window with a red sky outside, just like the opening scene in the film. Han Solo's line,
"I got a bad feeling about this,"
originated in this film. Latitude Zero, 1969. Subject, obviously, of an earlier video on this channel. Rescued by a futuristic submarine, 3 men are drawn into a conflict between an underwater utopia and a mad scientist who creates grotesque human-animal hybrids. This film began as a co-production between Toho and the American production company 4-Star Productions under Don Sharp. After having flown out the American cast to Japan, Sharp declared bankruptcy and pulled out of the contract, leaving Toho to either scrap the film or to produce it with only half the envisioned budget. Toho opted to go ahead and make the film anyway. As pointed out in the previous video, Lucretia, the antagonist Malek's companion, was played by Patricia Medina. At the time this movie was filmed, Medina was married to Joseph Cotton, who portrayed protagonist Captain Craig Mackenzie. After years of being dubbed in the English versions of Toho films, Akira Takarada and Akihiko Hirata are heard using their own voices speaking English in this film. The Horror of Malformed Men, 1969. After escaping an asylum, a medical student uncovers a remote island ruled by a madman who transforms ordinary people into grotesque, malformed beings. Although this film had built a reputation, it was not available for viewing in the United States for 40 to 50 years. It finally was released on DVD in the US, but some, if not all, did not contain English dubbing or subtitles. Lack of theatrical showings was possibly due to the extensive, topless nudity throughout the film. It was reportedly banned outright in many areas, and what I've seen, I can understand it. And that's our trip through the wonderfully alarming world of kaijin. Proof that if a scientist in a Japanese horror film says, "I've made a breakthrough," it's time to leave the lab, and possibly the country. If you enjoyed this descent into invisible criminals, radioactive slime, gassy men, and aggressively suspicious or seductive mushrooms, like the video, subscribe, and let me know which kaijin movie I should cover next. Until then, if somebody offers you glowing fungus, maybe just opt for a sandwich. I'm Dave, thanks for watching, and remain awesome until further notice. During the American occupation, during the American occupation of Japan,